Okay, we're going to do a little video here on changing the spare tire carrier for a Land Rover Discovery 2. This is the original one in '01. The lug snapped off out of the tire carrier. So we got a new one from Terrafirma. I'm going to show you that in a second. And I'm going to take these bolts off, and then you got to go inside the back of the door and undo the bolts and put the new one on. So you'll see that in a few seconds. So one thing you can see here is I have already flipped this so that I could hold a bigger tire on it. That's why I don't have all four bolts, because they don't line up when you do the flip to the original hole placements. And also something to note, when you do that, you've got to move this rear wiper arm. You have to tilt it over a little bit so that it doesn't impact on the spare tire carrier when you flip it. Now I've actually replaced this with a Discovery 1 rear wiper arm, which is why you can see that, but that also is why I can put on any rear wiper blade that I want, which is a big thing. Of course, when you do that, then you got to deal with how do you spray your jet. I just zip tied mine onto the new wiper arm, which works pretty good. My old wiper arm was rubbing against the window because it's just such a poor design and they just collapsed in on itself. Anyways, I'm about to take this off and then replace it with the new one, so you're going to see some more. Okay, step one on the inside, you're going to take this screen off of your speakers, and then you're going to undo these screws here, and this plastic piece is going to come off, after which you can take off a screw that's behind there, and then you've got a couple bolts right under there and there that take your rear door card off, and I'll show you that. You're also, there's a couple bolts here underneath once you get inside of here to take the speaker off as well. So stay tuned. So to get the speaker off, you've got these screws here. You can use the same screwdriver, and there's a whole schwackload of them. You just need to take that off, and there's going to be a clip sound electrical wire harness that you unclip to get that off. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so you can see that clip, pretty easy to get off, as most Land Rover clips are actually. So you can just, right at the very top back there, you just have to press the top of it and it will unclip easily. You just press this right like that, and you can see it lifts up the clip top. Most Land Rover clips are like that. They're very easy to take off, so it shouldn't be an issue. Next step, taking off the handle. Okay, for this next job, I recommend getting a panel popping tool, because you're going to be going around and prying in here to get basically the body panel clips off that hold, and you can kind of feel, and these do such a better job of getting panels off, like door cards and stuff like that, than anything else. I mean, this one-handed, but it's just way less issues. You can see down there, that's what you're dealing with. You got those little things, those little pegs, and they go in on various parts of the door card, and you're just going to be prying them out. You want to get as close to them as possible, and then kind of give them a little, don't be too gentle, but not so firm that it binds up. You kind of, once you get them moving, give them a little, pop, and they'll come right out. And I've taken this screw out, so this is going to come out with the door card as I get it out. So you can see here, door card is off. I've had this off before. I had a cracked tube to go to the rear washer jet, and it was leaking through this wire and tube loom, and so it was just pouring into the back of the truck. And I was wondering, where is all this water coming from? Well, it was because it was cracked on the inside of here, so I had to splice in a new piece of hose, which worked, but I had to take this all out to do it. So you can see with this now, we have access to the bolts on the rear tire carrier that I'm going to take off and replace it with the new one. So here we've got our new Terrafirma extended rear tire carrier. It's a little bit farther out, so you can fit a 35 on here if you really wanted to. You can see made in the United Kingdom, and it is part TF499. Nicely packaged, has some bump stops on there. Always nice to see, like a good packaging. And we're going to throw this on. The other thing you will see is that it has these little internal bumps there, or internal nuts, that means you can adjust how deep your rear tire goes onto the carrier, which is an important consideration, because if these go on too far, and I believe that is why Land Rover put these little bumps on there. I always wondered why it was, but I believe it's because these go a little deeper than the regular lugs, and so they needed, the solution was, instead of creating a different tire carrier, they just popped a little opening on the outside of the lug so that it can match that space. So a little piece of trivia on Land Rover Discovery 2s. Okay, this is the actual Terrafirma tire carrier. Took it out, ended up having a bolt requirement because I took the middle bolt out when I changed the first tire carrier. And you can see this is just amazingly thicker than the other tire carrier. The other tire carrier had this piece of metal propped up against the door because it's using such thin tin or metal or whatever it is to try and keep the structure weight down. So now the question is going to be, do I continue to use this piece of metal under here, or do I just not use it, because it's probably going to be about the same thickness as it is the thickness of that metal versus that. And I have to say, I feel like I'm just not going to use that piece of metal. I want to keep it as low profile as possible, and even as it is, it's going to be, like, this thing is so thin and cheap compared to the Terrafirma. It's hilarious. Like, this thing is heavy duty. I don't think I need to put that other plate on there. But here you can see it had welded in lugs in there. That's the one that snapped off. These ones, you've got the ability to adjust how deep your tire can get on. And this has huge bolts that are welded on. So, pretty excited about this. Let's see how it goes on. I'm not going to use those plates. Okay, so first issue. These holes are wider than the holes on the previous tire carrier. So what that means is when you try and set this up, like, those holes are okay, but on the other side they don't quite line up, which is an issue. So this is a little janky, but you know, top holes, they line up. Bottom holes, not even close. Totally don't match up. Just a total pain in the butt. So now the only real option is to either drill out some holes or try and drill out inside of the door a bit. Either one not ideal. but we're going to play around. Okay, what's become kind of typical of Terrafirma? Yeah, it's a combo Terrafirma and Land Rover. The bolt holes didn't match up 100%. So it required a little persuasiveness. Had to kind of drill out some of the aluminum, which is easier to do, and I ended up drilling in through one of the bolt holes of the Terrafirma tire carrier, and that helped. So just to show you, if you tried to use the plates that came with the original tire carrier, the bolts wouldn't be long enough. So you can't use the original tire carrier plates. This one does fit, but it is very close. I don't think you can use them. That's pretty tight. There isn't really a ton of room behind there to get any more, and this one's not even sticking through the other side, so that's not happening. Okay, one thing to consider when you're redoing any kind of panel is to pick up a few extra plugs like this that notch up into those little holes there, because inevitably over the years they're going to break off, and you want to put them back in just so your panel fits in super nice. You don't need every single one, but a few extras make sense. I just finished tidying this back up again, taped up the holes where the bolts were, keep a nice vapor barrier there. For what it's worth, I don't know if it makes a huge deal, but it's back on, and we have a nice tire carrier on there. On the other side, to keep the bolts accessible, I kept the plate off the back there, but so far seems pretty good. Hopefully the bike rack fits. So this is definitely way more heavy duty than it was before. Quite nice, other than the not optimal drilling holes from Terrafirma, but you can make it work. A little drill, a little bit of patience, and a file. Figure it out. So just a little tip: when you're putting your door card back on, you can just go around the perimeter, so you don't, you know, you've got the holes in the right place. Just give it a bang. And then it should be in pretty nicely. And at this point, it, you know, the speaker, this handlebar, that's all going to hold it in extra tight. So, you know, if you don't have every single one of those little plugs, it's not a huge deal. Alrighty, so the job is done. Got a tire on there. It is way more sturdy than it was before. Used to hit this thing before, it used to kind of vibrate. This thing is like solid on there, which is awesome. I am happy. As you can see, it's dark outside, and I started this when it was light, thinking, oh, I'll just chuck this on, no big deal. Turns out you open up Pandora's box when you work on Rovers. Next thing you know, you're drilling holes in super thick metal and pounding bolts and trying to paint things you drilled. And it's probably going to snow pretty quick here, so at least it's on. But if anybody has any questions, just leave them, because there's probably a ton. But hopefully you learned something and this helps you. I would 7 out of 10 recommend the Terrafirma tire carrier, just because it's stronger, but I'm not sure it's necessarily the best fit and finish, but it worked. Happy wrenching.